This next one's a big one. All right. This is my most valuable PlayStation 4 game, and honestly, one of the most valuable games in my entire collection. It is, welcome back everyone, to what is the third and final part of my PlayStation 4 collection. For those of you that have endured the first two videos, 3 to 4 hours of discussion, we're finally rounding it out, closing the book, and talking about my last several stacks of games here that I currently own on PlayStation 4. For those that are new here, this is your first video, you'll see linked up in the corners are the other two parts of this series. In short, the PlayStation 4 is an incredible system. It is a lot of fun to collect for. It's very affordable right now. And there's just tons and tons of cool physical games out there that I think a lot of people don't know about. So hopefully you enjoy this one. This is going to be, again, the last little bit of my sort of normal releases. And then I have a couple of big boxes and some fun stuff in here. I'll say that this one has some of my more interesting games to talk about for a variety of reasons. But I'm not going to belabor the point. We have a lot to get through. We're just going to dig right in as we have been. With the first game up, we have Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. So if you've never seen this game before, this is very much kind of like a retro throwback kind of game. We're going to try to find the perfect angle that doesn't catch all the glare. But yeah, think of something like a Shinobi or like a Mega Man X, something kind of in that neighborhood. I've heard that it is quite good, a fun couple hours retro throwback. My good buddy Seth, Captain Drachma, my co-host on IndieQuest, link in description, he brought this game to one of our episodes, and his description really sold me on it. It sounded like a lot of fun, so when Limited Run did a physical release, I was like, heck yeah, sign me up. And one that I apparently have a loose disc in there, but one that I'm looking forward to getting around to. One of my favorite games from the PlayStation Statham? Jason PlayStation? One of my favorite games from the PlayStation 3 era, and that is Valkyria Chronicles. This is the remastered version that comes in this really nice steelbook with a slipcover over it. Normally I'm not a big steelbook guy, but when you do it as classy as this, oof, you have my attention. Yeah, phenomenal strategy RPG, a mix of kind of like real-time strategy meets turn-based RPG. You're lining up shots, but you still have like movement currency and stuff like that. Gorgeous watercolor art style, interesting story. Just a really special game. In an earlier video, I talked about Valkyria Chronicles 4 and how I haven't played that one yet. I have definitely played this one through. I love this game, and it was really cool to have the remastered version on PS4. I feel like I can basically never have enough Valkyria Chronicles in my life. We have Valkyrian Arc Hero School Story. I'm not going to lie, this was a little bit of an impulse purchase, or, again, I often say it closes out a buy two, get one, right? You're shopping at GameStop. You have two games, and your third one's going to be free. What are you going to find? Something cool, something interesting looking. I honestly don't know much about this one. I assume it's kind of going for that Persona vibe, a little bit of life sim management meets a little bit of RPG. But if this one is really good, let me know, because it's not one that I've really even dug into. We have Valfaris, which is a very cool looking game, and I just love that cover. Not just because it looks like a metal album, but also I just love that bright neon green. It's not a cover that color you see too often. Yeah, this is a side-scrolling run-and-gun action game. A little bit of a retro throwback, and it does have like a metal coat of paint on it. I have not checked it out yet, but I've heard from friends of mine and listeners of the Polykill podcast that is very good. VR one here, we have Until Dawn Rush of Blood. This is the amusement park roller coaster on rails shooter. It is pretty good, and it's not too bad in terms of movement sickness or motion sickness. You'll get a little sick if you're really sensitive, but I felt like this one was implemented pretty well. It's actually kind of hard in some spots, and it's certainly very different from other Until Dawn games, which I think a lot of people were disappointed in. They wanted more like authentic Until Dawn, even in VR. But for what it is fun. A good early PSVR title kind of showcased what VR was capable of. And it's nice that it's like horror themed, but it's not strictly a horror game. We have a whole bunch of games we're going to talk about all at once here. We're going to start with Yakuza Kiwami and Kiwami 2. So these were my first exposure to the Yakuza franchise. I had never played a Yakuza game before, and the first one I played was Kiwami, which is a remake of the first Yakuza. Really loved it. It comes in this nice, like, again, slip cover meets steelbook, which is the way to do it if you're going to give me a steelbook. And yeah, obviously I fell in love with this world, with the setting, with the characters. Kiryu is incredible. Majima is incredible. I think that this series deserves all the praise it gets. And even if I was one of those people that didn't come to the series until much later on, I really loved and appreciated my time with it, and I've grown into quite a big fan of Kiwami. And I felt like Kiwami 2 basically lived up to everything I wanted it to be. I played these kind of back to back. I gobbled them up, num 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 num. And in my mind, I think of them as like just one big fun story. You know, I don't have like distinct memories of one versus the other. It was just like this summer of consumption, loving the series overall. And so both of those games are very special, very meaningful to me. We have Yakuza 0, the one that most people say is the best in the series, and I have actually never played this one. I know that a lot of people had this as their entry point. It was the launch of this game, really, that I think catapulted this series into the limelight, that made it what it is for people. But I have not played this one yet at all. I do really want to get around to it. This is like a break glass in case of emergency game, right? I'm always like, I don't want to play the one that everyone says is the best, because then I will have played, you know, quote unquote, the best one. But obviously I'm very, very excited for that. And then when this came out, I was like, oh, heck yeah. We got the Yakuza Remastered Collection. This is the big box. It's still sealed. Comes with a fake case for Yakuza 5 on PS3, even though it never got a physical release. Yakuza 5 was originally just digital. It was not available for folks otherwise, and this collection is a good way for people to play it. But yeah, this includes 3, 4, and 5, which has got to be hundreds of hours of content for people. And even though this is kind of considered, I think, the weakest period for the series, I think it's still going to be very fun. I'm looking forward to it. So in terms of like Yakuza overall, I have played the first 2, and I have played Like a Dragon. And so next one I play will probably be 0 and or 8, and then I will, you know, clean up with 3, 4, and 5. But yeah. I mean, it's so wild to me that we can get this entire series on PlayStation 4. You know, you can play Yakuza 0 through 7, and literally 1,000 hours of fun. Just ridiculous value for money, especially that remastered collection. All right, we have a port of a Wii U game. We have the Wonderful 101 remastered, and this is a fun little lenticular version of this. So I have actually never played this. I had it on Wii U, and I never got around to it before this version came out. And so I picked it up because I figured, you know, it might be nice to play this one on a more modern console, and probably be pretty fun to trophy hunt. But yeah, this slipcover in particular is pretty cool. You don't see this one too often with copies of the game, because this was part of the Kickstarter. This was like a Kickstarter backer reward, so it has like a nice message on the back saying thank you to the backers for making this possible. I was not a Kickstarter backer for this game. I just happened to see this copy get traded in to my local game store, and it was for the same price as a regular copy, and I was like, oh, heck yeah. You know that from seeing around my game room, you all know I love lenticular stuff, and it's a game I meant to play, and it just looks so freaking cool, so I will definitely enjoy that one when the time comes, I'm sure. Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World. So this is continuing the kind of recent trend of Monster Boy, Monster World, Wonder Boy, all that kind of getting second life on the PlayStation and Switch, which is cool. I was actually really intrigued to play through this one. You know, this is what was originally Monster World 4, which never actually came out stateside. It was, I think, only in Japanese. I can't remember if it was available via the Sega channel, but it was not here. I actually have somewhere over here in the back, I have like a repro physical copy that a buddy of mine gave me when he was culling his collection down. But yeah, this one was good to go through. I would say that after playing Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, none of these quite hold up in that same way, but man, this is still quite good. Neo, this is the, you know, Team Ninja Souls-like game, a little more combat heavy, a little faster paced. I have not played that one, but I do look forward to checking it out. Knights of Azure. You know, this is kind of a relatively run-of-the-mill sort of like dungeon crawl action RPG with like a coat of paint that feels a little stereotypical, right? Like a little anime. It's something you'd expect from Gust. But this is one of those games that when I played it, I had a better time than I was expecting to. I thought it was going to be, completely average by all metrics, and I left pleasantly surprised. So enough to have picked up the second one. So check that one out if you're interested in that kind of game, or if you're looking for like a relatively accessible action RPG. Night in the Woods. This one is big in my indie pile of shame. I've been meaning to play this game since it came out. I know it has a massive reputation as one of the better indies out there. I love the vibe of it, kind of that fall energy that more games need to have. I was so surprised that this game took as long as it did to get a physical edition. There are certain games once Limited Run got popular enough, you can look at certain indies and you can just guarantee that one of those companies are going to produce a physical edition. And this was one of those. Just like, there's no doubt in my mind that they will make a physical Night in the Woods. But it took years and years and years. It wasn't until like the 2020s that this finally came out. So, I'm happy to finally have it, and it's one that one day I'll close the book on, Ooh, two phenomenal games here. First up, we have Nier Automata. I don't really need to say a lot about this game that hasn't already been said. Folks love it, and for good reason. The thing I would really praise it for is the soundtrack. Incredible music, great design, and just a fun game, top to bottom, very interesting. Tells a story very different from other things. Fascinating ending, just a really good one all in all. I'm actually one of the few people that prefer the original Nier on PS3. Now, Replicant is a little different because there's the two versions, Replicant and Gestalt, and you played as the dad versus the younger guy. And this one isn't, so it's not like a one-to-one with the original Nier, but I like the original Nier a lot. Something about that cast of characters, that world, it feels so much more than the sum of its parts. It's so special. From the moment I booted that game up and I heard Kaine, screaming at Grimoire Weiss, I was like, okay, this is probably something different that I haven't really seen before. And I would say that this game's soundtrack, literally probably the best soundtrack of any game. I might dare to say. So, just both incredible games. I was really happy that Replicant got a physical version. Here we go. Bit of an underrated horror game. We have Maid of Sker. So this is a horror game entirely based on sound. You can see the woman holding her hand over her mouth. So it's enemies that are blind but have sensitive hearing. And so as you move around the environments, the sound you make will trigger them to come find you. It is in that genre of kind of like run and hide type of survival horror games, but it looks good, it's scary, it's tense, it's interesting, good variety. I remember playing this one during October a couple years back and thinking like, wow, how are more people not talking about Maid of Sker? Genuinely one of the best horror games on PS4, and one that you should not sleep on. It is very good, and it's very affordable, so get your survival horror now before they all go up in price. I don't need to belabor this one. I actually talk about this one weirdly often on my channel. This is Lumo, a really fun retro throwback game. It plays isometric like Solstice and things like that, but one that I really like a lot. Even though it's a little bit janky, I feel like the jank kind of adds to the charm. It just feels earnest in a way that I really appreciate, and I always recommend this one to people as a little bit of a hidden gem. Lost at Sea or Lost Sea. I literally know nothing about this game at all. I probably won't even hang on to it unless it's supposed to be really good. If you've played it, let me know. I could see this one getting traded away though. This was in the early wave of, when I was really hyped on limited print companies. So this is an East Asia soft release, and I was like, I gotta get it. They're probably all cool, right? I have way cut back, way cooled down, but this is one that was like kind of a product of that. We have an import here. It's a game called The Long Reach. It's kind of it's an interesting horror game, And I'll even read you the back of the box here. It says, set in New Hampshire in the fictional town of Bervo, The Long Reach is set in present day. You don't play in a post-apocalyptic world or explore a fairy-filled fantasy world. You're in the thick of it, just around the corner from the place where you buy your groceries. It's an adventure game filled with colorful puzzles, characters, and the shock of discovery. So, shock of discovery instead of joy of discovery. It gives you a little bit of a taste. Just a very vibesy game, one that I have not actually played yet, but I remember seeing footage of this and thinking like, damn, that looks kind of cool. And another one that never got a North American physical print. Another early PSVR Fizz-a-Dish. This is Loading Human Chapter 1. A little bit of like a story, almost Telltale-y type game. Not too involved of a game, and I don't think there was ever a Loading Human Chapter 2, at least not physically. So, not one that I think many people are going to be clamoring for. We have both Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2. I have played through Little Nightmares. I love Little Nightmares. Great, spooky Halloween-themed puzzle platformer. Really interesting, especially when it came out. There was really not much else like it. And this is cool because the Complete Edition also includes the DLC that came with the game. I have not played Little Nightmares 2, but I definitely, every October, it's in contention as one of the games that I'm going to play. If you haven't figured it out by now, I really only play scary games in October. I try to keep October limited to scary stuff. But I have not played Little Nightmares 2 as a result. And there's actually a Little Nightmares 3 now, which is crazy that series is like as successful as it is to get 3 entries, but they did. This one here is Lily. So I'm always looking for games that give me that PS2 vibe, that PS2 energy, that look like they were developed by the same company that made Maximo or Mark of Cree. And Lily is very much one of those. Just seems like a bit of an action-adventure type game. Not one that I've played yet, but one that is my style for sure. We mentioned a while back in a different video, I had the VR Oasis pack, which is a bundle of several games, one of which is Light Tracer, which I bought ahead of that from Limited Run. This is a puzzle game where you're kind of like manipulating objects to create paths for things. It's pretty typical puzzle type stuff, but in VR. And so you're in these big, like, floating stone walkway structures and trying to manipulate objects and create pathways to navigate up through these different levels and these different towers. I like puzzle games in VR. We've got Life is Strange, the limited edition. I like Life is Strange quite a bit. I know that it's a little cringe, you get your teenage energy in there, but that's the point, right? You're supposed to lean into it. You're supposed to embrace it. I think of it like, if you are hanging out with, like a cousin of yours or a friend's kid, and maybe they're like 11 or 12 years old, they're going to be a little cringe. They're going to be a little over the top, but you just get into that spirit with them, right? You just celebrate with them and you just be happy for them that they're happy, even if it's, a little bit outside of the way that you would talk. Let teenagers be awkward. Now, I know that adults made it, which is an added layer of complication, but I think that the spirit of the game is fun to kind of lean into. And I've actually played it through a couple times as a result. And then we have Before the Storm. This is one that I have not played. I've never played any other Life is Strange other than the first one. So never played 2, Before the Storm, True Colors, or the Captain something, that spinoff. But they're all, kind of on the eventual backlog. We have Trails of Cold Steel 3 on the old PS4 here. I actually have the first 2 on Vita, which is why I call out the system. And so this one is just on hold until I beat the first 2. I played the first one for about 10 hours. I liked it. I found the first one to be a little bit slow. I know that people really love this series, So you tell me what I need to do to get into them, right? Is it just that they are slow and I need to embrace it? Is it that the series really picks up right after where I stopped? Let me know what makes this series so good. Not that I'm saying I hated it. I liked my time with it well enough. It just didn't grip me in the way that I was necessarily expecting it to, given the praise. Layers of Fear, the Masterpiece Edition. So this is a relatively short, just sort of like experiential horror game. No combat or anything. You're just going down spooky hallways and things. This game is developed by Bloober Team. And this game gets crapped on a lot. And I don't know. I liked my time with it. I'm not really sure why people hate this game or hate Bloober Team in the way that they do. It's never really made sense to me. Like, yes, this isn't like high art. It's not the most sophisticated horror game ever, but like it was a couple hours of good scares and interesting environments. What more do you want? So I like Layers of Fear. I actually have recommended that game to a couple people, and maybe I'm the only Bloober Team fan out there. This is just the type of game I saw it and I was like, yeah, I'm buying that. Last Tinker City of Colors. So a 3D platformer action adventure game. You know, a little bit of Zelda, a little bit of Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter in there. And just, doesn't this just look like something that didn't come out on PS4? It looks like a PS2 game in the best possible way. Maybe PS3. So yeah, I saw that and instantly knew that I would be saving Tinker World. We have The Last of Us Part 2. Obviously, a lot could be said about how tense and rough this game is to get through. I liked it, but I'm probably not going to go back and play it again. It's tricky because I never got the Platinum Trophy, and I do want to clean that up, but when I do it, I think I got to skip cutscenes because I can't put myself through another run of this game. It was literally just hard to watch, but I think a really good, very successful sequel to The Last of Us, and most people that have a PS4 have played this, so you don't really need me to sell you on it. It's no Lost Tinker City of Colors. Oh, here's one of them. I tell you, man. Last Guardian, phenomenal game. This was one of my top 10 games of the last decade. I love this game. I think that the way that they create a relationship through the gameplay between you and Trico is phenomenal. I love the environment. I'm obviously a huge Ueda fan. You know, Ico and Shed of the Colossus are two of my favorite games of all time. This is as well. Yeah, just really a special game. I'm glad that this game came out as well as it did, given the sort of tumultuous, long, extended development time and, you know, the transition from PS3 to PS4. I think that they really ultimately were incredibly successful in delivering something worth the wait, and it could not have come out on PS3. It would not have worked. I understand why there was that delay, because they needed more power. I still think they could have used more power. A PS5 version of this game would really sing. But yeah, love The Last Guardian. I mean, I have, you can't see it, it's always right around the corner, but I have, you know, a display case for Ueda stuff, and I have a Trico plush. I have, I actually own the press kit for this game, and a couple other things because I just love it so much. I have the collector's edition, so yeah, really, really cool. Chromia Omega. This is like this game kind of reminds me of maybe a little Star Fox, maybe a little bit like Descent on the PS1. It's like arcadey space shooter. It's an interesting game. I only ever poked around at it for like an hour or two. They say bullet hell, but it's a little more than that. It's not just like a scrolling shooter the way that you'd typically expect. Neat game though. I will definitely give it a little bit more time in the future. We have Knights of Pen and Paper. So this is, you know, a very traditional style turn-based RPG. I just thought that this was charming. You know, I love a good turn-based RPG, and I like the idea of like being a little bit more direct in gamifying like the D&D experience like that. So I haven't checked it out yet, but it always intrigued me a little bit. We have a rhythm game, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. So if you enjoy games like Theater Rhythm, you'll obviously like Melody of Memory. You know, Kingdom Hearts has a lot of great music in it. There's more good music in Kingdom Hearts than just Simple and Clean and that one Skrillex song. Okay, there are dozens of good tracks across this franchise, and this game is, you know, full of them. So much content. There's like another 50 hours of game in here if you really want to, you know, do everything and poke around. So I'm a huge rhythm game fanatic, and anytime they release one of these rhythm games based on one of the series that I really love, I'm all in. All in. All right, let's move some stuff here so I can get to... Oh, here's one real quick that I forgot to show with all the other Yakuza games. We got Yakuza 6. I have not played this one yet either, obviously, but that is what you really actually need to round out the Yakuza franchise. So if you already left a comment that I forgot Yakuza 6... sorry, they're out of order. As you can tell, we're jumping all over the alphabet. We just did K, and now we're going to T. Got two games that I'm gonna, pack together because I have not played either of them. We have Tales of Zestiria and Tales of Berseria. The last Tales game I really got into was Tales of Xillia, but I just can't resist buying them optimistically, waiting for the opportunity to get back into them again. You can always have fun with a Tales game, right? And so I've heard that these are both actually pretty solid, and especially I think Berseria got some love. Let me know which of these two I should probably go in for first, but yeah, definitely not going to pass those up in the opportunity to enjoy a little RPG action. This next one's a big one, all right? This is my most valuable PlayStation 4 game, and honestly, one of the most valuable games in my entire collection. It is Tamashii. So, you either are aware of this or you're not. For context, a lot of people know the story of the game Poop Slinger, which sounds like I'm making a crude joke, but it's true. So there's this company called Limited Rare Games that is basically a meme company designed to poke fun at limited run games and other limited release companies. They're always talking about hyping up FOMO, and they're very jokey about how terrible customer service they have. Their website looks like it's going to steal your credit card information. It's like a GeoCities page that's got a bunch of random Russian in it and stuff. It's designed to look like a scam, and it's a joke. And the first game they ever released was Poop Slinger, which is now a several $1,000 game just because it is so valuable or so rare. Although I don't know that it always will be. But the second game that company put out was Tamashii. And they don't even tell you what you're getting in advance, I don't think. I can't remember. I think they might have teased what it was or the type of game. But I was hyped up. I was on the hype train. I was like, all right, I'm gonna what's it to me, right? If I spend $40 and I lose that $40, it was worth it for the experience, right? So I put in an order, and the game that got shipped to me was Tamashii. This is like a 2D indie horror platformer kind of game. It's actually a pretty decent game. This studio puts out garbage games, but this is actually a pretty decent one. It's just there's no need to get this version of it. But this game, because people didn't trust that company, it was before they're well known, which they're a little more well known now. This one was also a pretty low print run game. I couldn't tell you how many copies are out there. Any information that says how many copies are out there is just going to be speculation. But this game not regularly, but this game has sales in the last several months of, $800 to $1,000. This is a quadruple digit game. And that's just wild to me. You can play this game on itch.io for $1. So play it, experience, interesting story. But yeah, that is Tamashii. All right. Next one up here. Just going to roll right past that into Planescape Torment and Icewind Dale. Before Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I had a little bit of an itch. I was like, you know what? I'm going to want to play one of these CRPGs, one of these very slow, kind of intentional RPGs. And I'd always heard that Planescape Torment is one of the best. And so I picked this up thinking, I'm going to play Planescape Torment. And then the time never found me, and now when I go to play one of these, it'll probably be Baldur's Gate 3. But I still do want to play Planescape Torment before I die, and it's cool that both of these games are packed in onto one collection. I remember watching a buddy of mine play Neverwinter Nights a lot, and so I got a little nostalgia for that type of game. We have A Plague Tale: Innocence. Great sort of pseudo-survival horror, more like action horror, bunch of rats everywhere type of game. A good high-budget sort of experiential horror title. One that I really liked my time with. It's not the most complicated systematically, but they do some interesting things with the story. They have really tense stealth sections. It's just very well designed for a lot of the game. I do think it falls off at the very end, and I do not like the last boss of this game. I think it's not good. But otherwise, really like that one, and really looking forward to finally finding the time to check out Requiem, which is the sequel. I was so happy to see this game get announced and released. This is Neo: The World Ends With You. So this is a sequel to the classic DS, turn-based RPG where you use both of the screens to send attacks between one another. Just a real favorite of mine on the DS. Great soundtrack. It was such a unique, special game at the time. And they finally announced that there's a sequel to it. This is the type of sequel that plays very similar to the original, where like sometimes you're almost like, oh man, this is kind of following in a lot of the same footsteps. But it is a direct sequel. Like, it is definitely following directly on the events of the first game, which is an interesting choice after all this time. I didn't actually ever finish it, which sounds damning, but it's just that I got distracted by other stuff. I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think it quite hit the same highs as the DS one, but it delivered on its promise of being a cool sequel to that game. And so I'm very happy that it exists, and I actually really do hope to go back and close the loop on it at some point. We have Pixel Gear. So this is another VR game. This is another shooter, like a gallery shooter. In this one, everything is voxel based, so it's very like Minecrafty. You're standing there, and there are like little voxel like goblins and monsters and stuff will come towards you, and it's like tower defense-y style. You just need to make sure that none of them can reach you and take you down. Very fun game, but not a very long game. Only takes like an hour or two to get through. If you're looking for like an easier platinum trophy in VR, this is one to go for. It's definitely not a bad game. It's just short and kind of it just does one thing well. Ping Pong VR, heck yeah, VR ping pong, let's go. We've got Pineview Drive. So, side tangent, this 7 right here. Every October, I stream only horror games. And the way that I determine what I'm going to stream in October is I'll go on to How Long to Beat. I'll look at a bunch of horror games I'm interested in playing that year, and I'll write how long they are on a sticky note. And then me and my wife will put them all out in front of us, and we'll sort of like almost do like a horror game draft where we will know, okay, I'm going to stream this many hours in October. We have that many hours to fill. Here's how long each game is. Let's build kind of a playlist of what we intend to stream. And so I never actually took this off after doing that process. But anyways, the game itself is, I think, more of like a walking simmy type of horror game. It's more, there's not a lot of combat or anything like that. I think that this one probably has the potential to become one of the more collectible games on the PS4, I think. It's not very common to get the North American version of this game. And yeah, it's interesting looking. Despite the sticker being on it, I never actually streamed it. It got overshadowed by other stuff. Pillars of Eternity. I've heard that this is one of the best games of all time, and I've just never gotten around to checking it out. But next time I'm in the mood to use 200 hours of my life on one game, I will. Actually, I'll probably do Baldur's Gate, as I've said. All right, we've got a set of games here we need to talk about, and oof, this is rough. So we've got Persona 5, and then we've got Persona 5 Royal. I love the Persona games. I played Persona 3 and 4, loved them both. And I've played the first one and the second one as well. I never finished either of those, but I was very excited when Persona 5 came out. My wife is also a huge Persona fan. She played our copy first of Persona 5 when it came out. And I've told the story many times. I will never live it down. I will never stop feeling guilty. But at some point, we traded our PS4 in to get a PS4 Pro. And I uploaded all of our save data to the cloud in order to download them back onto the new PS4 when we got it. But I didn't realize, or I didn't stop to think, that it's only uploading save data under my profile. So she played it under her profile, which is not a PS Plus member. And so her data was just lost with that old PS4. You know, like a day's worth of progress gone. I was so stressed. I've never felt so guilty in my life. And so I have not played it as a result. It's almost like too traumatic for me. I will obviously play the game at this point. She liked me enough to marry me after that, so it didn't end terribly for me. But that was for the original version. And then when Royal came out, I bought it because obviously this is the version to play, and this is the version I will play. But as you can tell from the fact that it's still sealed, I have not gotten around to it yet. And then Persona 5 Strikers, you know, a little bit of like a Musou spinoff. This seems like a cool idea, but I'm obviously not going to play this until I have the context of the main set of RPGs. So, another two great games, man. PS4, I tell you. First up, we have Ni no Kuni Remastered. This is the first one. What an excellent RPG. You know, I know that a lot of people are down on the combat system, but I think that the music in this game is phenomenal. You know, visually, it's incredible. Obviously, there's that collaboration with Studio Ghibli in Level 5. And I liked the monster collecting, monster battling thing. I know you don't have like direct influence over the battles and they feel a little one note sometimes or a little out of your control, but I liked building a team of interesting monsters and, you know, seeing what I could do. And I liked the story and the vibe of this game so much that it really carried me through. Played all the way through, loved it. Just a really special game. Whether you play this version or the PS3 version, you're going to have a good time. Although I'd recommend this version because it runs better than the other. And then, of course, we also have Ni no Kuni 2. I have not played the sequel yet, so this is one that is on my to-do list. Got another Soedesco game for you, and that is Nero, Nothing Ever Remains Obscure. This is kind of like a really vibey walking sim, basically. So not really like telling a straight through narrative. It's more experiential than that, but it's just really interesting. There's not a lot of stuff like this on PS4. And again, that Soedesco, man, you're either going to get cool but flawed or you're going to get jank. Either way, I'm happy. Speaking of games I'm happy about, new Super Lucky's Tale. Talk about your all-time charmers, all right? This little guy knows how to have a good time. If you want just the most lighthearted, playful, sweet 3D platformer, you know, just feel good, put you in good mood, couple hours long, play New Super Lucky's Tale. Just a great game. You know, this was originally Xbox exclusive. I'm happy that it finally got ported in this new version and made its way to PS4. And I love this game. I think it's one of the best 3D platformers on the system for sure. Next Machina. I bought this because it's a Housemarque game. Housemarque did Returnal, which is a game I really love, but I have not played this one before. I have heard that it's good, but it's not one that I found the time for or gotten around to. I will. All right, next up here. Pull the stack down. We have What Remains of Edith Finch. Probably the best walking sim out there. This and Firewatch are probably my two favorites, but yeah, the story that this one tells and the way that this game tells its story and incorporates mechanically what you're doing into the story is like second to none, especially in some of those later ones. It's just really cool. Shout outs to my buddy Caleb J. Ross, who literally wrote a book on this game called Suddenly I Was a Shark. You can go check that out wherever you find books. All right, go to Amazon. And yeah, just a really special game. I see why he loves it so much because it's incredible. Zone of the Enders Mars, the second runner, a VR Zone of the Enders games. Heck yeah, dude. I actually really liked Zone of the Enders on PS2, but I have not played this VR version yet. So hopefully it holds up. I like that kind of just, you know, mech robot energy to it all. Another Soedesco game, we've got Ziggurat. This is like a first-person magic-based dungeon crawler roguelike-y type of game. Really cool, very intriguing. It actually was successful enough to get a sequel on PS5. There's a Ziggurat 2 out there. But yeah, this game just always looked super fun, so I was really happy to finally track down a copy. A little bit harder to come by. Not rare by any stretch, but you'd think that this game being a Soedesco game would be like $5, but it's a little less common and a little more expensive than it might initially seem. Got Zenki Zero. So this is a game that... Zenki Zero Last Beginning. I don't know if this is based on like an anime or another property. I mean, I know obviously Spike Chunsoft. This game was recommended to me by kind of a local acquaintance of mine. He really liked this game and he said that it was a lot of fun. So when it was like on sale for... I think Best Buy was clearancing that out for like $10. I picked up a copy. Ys 9 Momstrom Nox. Ys is one of the biggest blemishes on my record. I have played exactly one Ys game, and it is the first Ys game. Book 1 of Ys Book 1 and 2. I've always meant to get around to especially the more recent ones. I own most of them because I'm very optimistic that I will play them, but I just never quite find the time for really no good reason. I have no one to blame but myself. I've got the PSP versions to play. I've got Celceta on Vita. I've got 8 and 9 on PS4 and 5. I just haven't done it yet, but I can't stop getting them. It's one of those series where I know I'm going to like it. So why not pick them up when I find them affordably? Speaking of 3D platformers, a while back, there we go, Yooka-Laylee, which is actually getting a remastered version, oddly enough. But yes, this is the kickstarted spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. It is not a perfect game, but it is a very charming game, and I think it delivers on... Well, maybe not a very charming game. It is a reasonably charming game, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for that era. I grew up a Banjo-Kazooie kid, so I'm a mark for this type of game. Obviously not flawless, obviously not the best 3D platformer out there, but for fans of the genre, it is a great experience, really fun to go through, and definitely worth your time, even still today. But wait for the remaster, right? No need to play this version. And then they did a follow-up here, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. This one actually plays much more like a Donkey Kong Country game. So they've done the 3D and the 2D platformer. I think this is actually the better game. Really well designed. Very cool overworld in this game where every level you can find ways to manipulate it in the overworld, and it changes the structure of the level, essentially turning it into a new level. So like an early example of that is you'll play through a level, and then in the overworld you'll find a way to like open a dam that makes a river run that cuts right through the level, and then when you replay it, now that level's filled with water, and it's, you know, half of a water stage. So really cool way that they added some variety to things in that way. Plus, the actual gameplay is a little tighter, I think, and the game just looks a little better than the first Yooka-Laylee. It has a reputation for having a really hard end area, but I'm telling you people, it's not as bad as it seems. All right, all you people that can't finish this game but can play through a freaking Souls game, it's doable. All right, you know who you are. Yonder Cloudcatcher Chronicles. This is a vibes game for sure. You know, it's got a little Zelda energy, but it's just one of those games where you kind of wander around, explore this cloud island, and just sort of soak it in. Not really that high stakes. A little bit artsy fartsy, a little bit of walking sim, but a cool game. Yesterday Origins. I know that this is like a bit of an adventure game, but I couldn't tell you too much about it in detail. I think I just heard that it was decent, or maybe I got it on impulse from Limited Run. And the greatest comeback story in the history of games, No Man's Sky. I got this because they released a VR version, like a patch that allowed you to play it in VR. And I've played a bit of it in VR, and it's very cool, but I've never, like, out of VR or in VR, sat down and really given it the time of day. You know, I've played it, I've poked at it for a couple hours, but that's the type of game you can lose triple-digit hours in, so I'll be back. We've got No Heroes Allowed VR. This is like an interesting sort of tower defense game. You're standing over like a table, and you're just doing tower defense-y type things to solve these different levels. It's not a very long game, and it's got a little bit of like a sense of humor that reminds me of like Disgaea, I think. My copy's sealed, but I have played this, so I'm trying to remember if I own it digitally as well. But I never finished it, so I do want to go back to that and play it. VR only. You have to play it in VR. Neon Wall. This is a strange one. It is what's on the tin. You are in VR. You're looking at this giant neon wall, and you're trying to like manipulate the wall to be able to navigate across it. So you like, you know, add and remove blocks, hit switches, stuff like that. Change the color of different things to let you navigate around. It's very much a puzzle game with like a little bit of like a monkey ball mixed in there. It's pretty interesting. You know, it's a cool novel VR idea. We have Natsuki Chronicles. This is another one from First Press Games. You can tell from that they all have that same kind of cover art style. This is a scrolling shooter. I pretty much buy most scrolling shooters that come out because I love them, even though I suck at them. I haven't played it yet. Narcosis. This is an underwater-based horror game. It is okay. I think that the story doesn't really deliver, and the gameplay is a little bit slow and a little bit boring. It's fine. It's not like a bad game. It just was a little underwhelming. I did play all the way through this one, though, and I don't really regret my time with it, but of the horror games that we've talked about across all these videos that I've played, it'd be in the bottom half for sure. Kingdom Hearts 3. I love Kingdom Hearts. I was raised on Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, so I was excited for this game. You know, I think that this game delivers on being a successful Kingdom Hearts sequel, continuing that story. I wonder if we will see Kingdom Hearts 4 sometime in the next decade, or if it's going to go the way of Kingdom Hearts 3 and take half of my lifetime to come out, but I did like it. A launch game I still haven't played, Killzone Shadowfall. I've only ever played the very first Killzone. And I've waited so long to play this one. At this point, the servers have been shut down. But I do plan on playing through it. Seems like a fun one. More of like a stealth puzzler, kill the bad guy. This one was like a little bit of an impulse, but I had heard decent things about it. It's all black and white, and it's like a, think kind of like Hitman, but a little more puzzly. And so, it seems like it could be pretty fun. Caro Blaster, very charming game. This is from the same developer that did Cave Story. This was the follow-up. Very different game, and I don't think, doesn't quite have the same reputation, but it's cute. Plays this little retro pixel frog hopping around different levels. If you're familiar with how Cave Story plays, you'll at least have some familiarity with this one, or you'll feel at home playing this one, I should say. But fun one, not too long, but very, very charming. Worth playing through. We have Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth. I was just so intrigued by like the vibe and the color of this. I assume that this is based on like a book or something. I'm really not too sure. You can let me know in the comments. This was very much an impulse purchase. It just seemed like it kind of had that Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones energy to it. And it's like, I'm down for that type of fantasy story. Let's go. So I picked that one up. Another game that's in the mold of Donkey Kong Country, we have Kaze and the Wild Masks. Also another Soedesco game. This is one of the better Soedesco games for sure. Really nice, relatively straightforward, but still very fun, very colorful, intriguing, side-scrolling 2D platformer. There's stuff to hunt through in the levels and find and collect. There's speedrun challenges. There's kind of everything you'd want from a game like this. If you like stuff like Donkey Kong Country Returns or anything like that, Kaze's a really smooth, fun experience. Katamari Damacy Reroll. I love the original Katamari Damacy. I played that back on the PS2 a lot, and so it's just always good to have a version on hand when I'm in the mood, right? It's easier to have it on newer platforms. I do have my PS2 hooked up out there, but if I want to play Katamari Damacy on the big screen TV, this is the way to do it. So when it went on sale, at some point I picked it up for relatively cheap. Jupiter and Mars. This is like an underwater-based VR title. It's not one that I've played yet, but I love a good underwater vibey type of game. The spin-off to the Yakuza franchise, we have Judgment. I have played through this one. So when I said I played through Yakuza 1, 2, and 7, I forgot that I mentioned this one. I really like Judgment. I think that they do a good job having other characters in that universe. Maybe a little bit more of a, let's say a little more of a grounded story, but it's about the same. If you like Yakuza, you're going to enjoy these games for sure. I have not played the sequel to this, but I intend to. All right, we're getting close. All right, you've come a long way, people, but we are approaching the end here. One that I've been meaning to play for so long, Journey to the Savage Planet. So I've heard this game described as like PlayStation Metroid Prime, which is like, dude, sign me up. Metroid Prime is one of the best games of all time. Always seemed really intriguing and never had a chance to play it yet, but I definitely will. Jotun or Jotun, the Valhalla edition. This is a pretty, at this point, relatively old, but well-loved side-scrolling, puzzle platformer type of game. One that I just haven't found the time for. One of the worst games on PS4 and the worst horror, quote-unquote horror game I own, Joe's Diner. Do not play it. It is garbage. Not often I have that opinion, but it's true. Job Simulator. This is VR. Introduction 101, right? You have someone who's never played VR before, show them Job Simulator, and you are in for a good day. Really charming, very sweet, and just a great, hour experience to get you accustomed to what playing in that type of environment is like. Good sense of humor. Just worth it top to bottom. I'm sorry I have not yet played Jedi Fallen Order. When I do, I'll probably play the PS5 version at this point. But I like a good Star Wars game. I just haven't found the time. I have played through with my wife It Takes Two. Really creative, cooperative 3D platformer. Thank you to Hazelight for continuing to put out these types of games. We need more co-op focused games. Games designed to be co-op. And this is one of the better ones in terms of gameplay. I was not really a fan of the characters in this game or the story. They kind of grated on me, but the actual minute-to-minute gameplay is like second to none. So it's worth it just to see all the creativity and the variety in the levels. And it's a meaty game. It's like 15 hours or so. Invisible Hours. This is a VR, like kind of detective whodunit type of adventure puzzle game. Not one that I've played yet. A great combo pack, Inside/Limbo, two of the all-time classics, including Limbo, which is sort of like the originator for a lot of what we think of in terms of modern puzzle platformers. Both of these games are phenomenal. They're both absolute bangers, and to get both of them in one collection is so freaking cool. Playdead crushed it on both of those. We have Inpatient, which is another VR survival horror game. This is one that I actually did play through. It is by Supermassive, and it has some like allusions to like Until Dawn type universe and stuff. It is pretty good. It's not the best, and it kind of falls apart in the back half a little. There's some clunkiness to it, but in terms of like VR horror stuff, it is definitely still worth checking out and trying out in PSVR. Then we have The Inner World, The Last Wind Monk. This is kind of like a Machinarium style point-and-click puzzler. I have not played through it yet, but I like this type of game quite a bit, so looking forward to it. And then we're down to our last three, which are kind of big box bundles here. And two of them are actually the same thing, which is kind of interesting. So we have the Annapurna Interactive Ultimate PS4 Collection. This is a set of 8 games, some of which are my favorite games ever. So we have a different version of What Remains of Edith Finch, Wadham, Telling Lies, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Outer Wilds, Kentucky Route Zero, Gorogoa, and Donut County. I have obviously another version of Edith Finch. Played and beaten that. I've not played Wadham. I have played through Telling Lies, but not this version. Sayonara Wild Hearts and Outer Wilds are two of my favorite games ever. Outer Wilds is my favorite game of all time. I have not played Kentucky Road Zero or Gorogoa. No, I have played Gorogoa. And Donut County I've also played. So I've played most of them. Annapurna is one of my favorite modern publishers. I mean, obviously they published, not developed, but they published my favorite game ever in Outer Wilds and Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is a game I am always championing. And so when they released this really cool collection, I had to get it. I think that this is like a very stylish, fun, neat box set, which we don't see a lot of before. And I think this will probably end up being one of the more like collectible and worthwhile collectible things on PS4. And it's still sealed because they actually released 2 versions of that. There's that one, and then there's also the Interactive Deluxe Limited Edition, which is very cool. It kind of like has this holofoil slipcover with like this fake book, and then you open it up, and inside the pages of the book are the different games. All of these games, I believe, are available physically, individually, or in other ways. This has the same titles on it as the other one. With the exception of Telling Lies. So these collections are the only ways to get Telling Lies physically if you like that type of game. So I like this one, I think, a little bit more. I think it's cooler, but I also like the idea of having like traditional PS4 style cases for these games. And I love Outer Wilds so much, I will buy it in any version that it comes out. I kind of want to collect them all, so to say. So those are some of my favorite parts on PS4. And then we'll end it with my favorite game of all time. We have the collector's edition of Outer Wilds. I don't buy many collector's editions from Limited Run these days, but I could not say no to Outer Wilds. Absolutely an incredible experience, something that no other game has captured the feeling of this game. No other game, I think, like mixes theme with gameplay, with discovery in this perfect mixture like Outer Wilds does. It's so good. It's so good. I mean, I liked it enough that the music was involved in our wedding, for crying out loud. So really cool to have this collector's edition that includes, some like postcards, art cards for the different planets, and a physical version and stuff like that. So yeah, love Outer Wilds. And folks, we did it. That is the entire PS4 collection. Every game I own, 400 something games as of recording this, and constantly growing. We'll very much be able to do an update video in a couple years of everything that I've added since then. But if you stuck through all 3 of these videos, wow, are you a real one. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can look in the description. You can subscribe, all that stuff. But I appreciate you. You're the best. Go play your PS4. Peace.